What's up?
Hi there, guys.
Tyler, Keith, plugged on. We talked about doing this for a little while now. It just takes a lot of preparation to do this particular band, but we're going to rank all the Judas Priest albums.
Yeah, this one was weird because, I mean, even though I've listened to quite a bit, like, Priest, I mean, I don't know if this is the case for you, I just never really listened to a lot of their full albums. Like, probably outside of the two that we've reviewed, like that me and you have reviewed on this channel, I probably only listened to, like, two others in their entirety prior to this. Like, I'd heard a lot of the songs, but, like, there's only, like, two of them that I listened to completely.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to a lot more, but mostly the 80s stuff and then their newer stuff. So albums like, I never listened to the Tim Ripper Owens albums in their entirety. I wish I never did now. And I never listened to their 70s albums in their entireties. I've listened to a lot of their major songs. So this one, it was fun to go back and actually listen to all these songs because I discovered a ton of Judas Priest songs and I'm like, I fucking love this now.
Yeah, like, all the time, so I had heard some of like the early Priest stuff because an old friend of ours was super into 70s Priest and he was like, 70s Priest is the best Priest. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And now after listening to it, I'm like,
make an argument.
There's some good stuff in there, man.
Yeah, definitely. Judas Priest has 18 albums.
Over like what, 30? 40 years. Almost 40 years. Oh.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to their discography, starting with Rocka Rolla all the way to Firepower.
Which is weird... Wow. Which is, if you were to just listen to like that album and then Rock Firepower, it's like,
yeah, totally different band, really. So, we're going to put them all in an order from 18 to 1, so let's get started. Number 18, we have Demolition from 2001. This is the second album that they did with Tim Owens in the band, who later joined Iced Earth and Charred Walls of the Damned. He's a fucking awesome vocalist, but this is a fucking awful album.
It's not here. I think the problem, I think the main issue with this album was the simple fact that they tried to do something different with Jug You Later, and then Jug You Later was like, got mixed reviews, and they're like, let's do everything. And then it just made this album bad. There's not really any. At least Jug You Later has like two songs, and I'm like, okay, these two songs are okay. Like I can stand these two songs, but like all of like, I don't really think there's anything on this album that's like worth going back to and listening to, like at all.
It's really bad, and it's so long too, and it's just painful to sit through. It's just the songwriting's just super bad, and it's a shame because there are some riffs on there that are nice, but then one, the production's strange, and then two, they throw in like some strange leads and other things that just kind of ruin the vibes that they would have going. I'm like, man, this just kind of sucks. The track that stands out to me that I'm like, this is awful, is Devil Digger. Devil Digger is atrocious. That chorus, Devil Digger. I'm like, oh my god, no, stop. It's a shame because then he goes on to Iced Earth and puts out two incredible albums.
Yeah, one of my favorite. One of them, which is like one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, so. and I just think, Rob Halford will always be Judas Priest. So these two albums are really just anomalies. But it's just like, man, he's a very talented vocalist. They could have done a lot better. Yeah, I think. At number 17, we have Jug You Later, which was the first album with Tim Owens. And Jug You Later, I think, it isn't great, but it isn't atrocious.
Yeah.
And there's some songs and moments on there that are really good. I still remember discovering the track Burn in Hell, which is probably the best song on there. That song is heavy, and every time, Tim, you're going to burn in hell. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Like, at least this album has an identity.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, even if it's not, it's a weird one because it's not very melodic, it has an identity. I really enjoy the last two tracks on the album.
Yeah.
I like Bullet Train and Cathedral Spires.
Yeah,
Cathedral Spires. I'm like, these are, like, okay, yeah. I see what you're going for. These tracks capture it. And then it's just... But nothing else really on the album sort of captures that the same vibe. I mean, if they could have done that, I mean, that who knows? We could be listening to a very different Priest in the 18 years since then. But right.
It's not overly memorable. And when it comes to Judas Priest, there's so much more that they offer. So, number 16, we have Rocka Rolla, their debut album. Rocka Rolla is not bad at all, and I actually enjoyed myself way more than I thought I was going to when I dug into this one. The title track is fun to listen to. It's got this just very fun, kind of sexy groove to it. Really catchy chorus that I enjoy. Never Satisfied is one that's fun. Diamonds and Rust is a classic that they do again on Sin After Sin. But yeah. I mean, there's some good songs on here. It's definitely a different band for sure. I'd say they're not really in my opinion, a metal band at this point in time.
They're more progressive.
They're a little bit more progressive and more of your kind of classic rock, but I think it still works. I mean, it's fun to listen to.
Yeah, I think that's like the only thing that maybe is, which is a little bit weird talking about this album since then, is because, I mean, kind of like the last two albums, this album, with a lot of hindsight, doesn't seem like Priest, but it is a good album. I mean, I think my favorite track from the album is Dying to Meet You. Dying to Meet You is a beautiful song, and it is. It's also just everything sounds a little different. Like Rob Halford sounds different in spots, and it's like the way he sings. I'm like, well, especially on "Dying to Meet You," I'm like, that's Rob Halford. Oh, cool. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun album. It's just everything else sort of sits a little higher in my opinion. But yeah,
agreed. So next up we have Point of Entry from 1981. I feel like this album, once again, like it isn't awful, and it's got some really cool songs on it. But man, you're slammed literally between British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance, and this album just ultimately, in my opinion, gets a little lost. But like Heading Out on the Highway is a really fun song that I could put down the fucking windows in the summer and crank that one up.
Yeah.
That one's fun. Desert Plains is I think the best song off of there. Turning Circles is cool.
I like Hot Rockin'.
Hot Rockin' is really fun to listen to. But then there's some on here that are just super, super fucking corny. Like You Say Yes. I Say No.
That's a very corny song.
Yeah.
Or like All the Way. All the Way is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of summed up everything, so I won't say too much. It's just that this album is in between arguably two of Priest's best albums, but then it kind of doesn't hit any of the highs that either of those two albums hit. It's just sort of like the middle ground between them, and it just sort of suffers for it. So, yeah.
Agreed. Number 14, we have Turbo from 1986. So, this is Priest going a little bit of a different direction, because they did, if you go from, say, British Steel all the way up through Defenders of the Faith, there's a pretty straightforward, badass metal records. This one's a little bit more toned back. The lyrics are a little bit more sexual, I guess.
Yeah.
More about the love making stuff. And it's kind of like a reaction. I look at it as a reaction to, this was kind of like at the height of like hair metal and all that stuff.
Yeah, because like a lot of bands were doing this sort of thing around that time. I mean, right around this time was when Iron Maiden put out Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, which was also a very much like a bigger album. A lot of bands were going the sort of synth heavy sound that this album has definitely. A lot of.
Synth is a good way to put it. But to me, like, I would honestly say as a whole package, I would put Point of Entry above Turbo. But because Turbo has the title track and Reckless, which are two of Judas Priest's best songs, I think it goes. That's why I would put it above. I mean, Turbo is fucking awesome, and it's funny. I obviously wasn't around back then, but you read about how like everybody hated this album, and then you go see Judas Priest live, and they bring out Turbo, and everybody's singing along to Turbo. Like everybody loves that song.
It's like Hindsight. Hindsight's great, man.
Yeah, but Reckless is good. Reckless is an incredibly awesome fucking song that I think is a little overlooked sometimes with Priest. But man, there's some stinkers on here. Hot for Love,
Private Property.
That's
the worst
bad.
one. Parental Guidance is also not. Yeah. I mean, it's also just the fact of with what happens is this album's not bad. It's just sort of very cheesy, very corny, and also at the end of the day very forgettable.
Yeah, most of
like it's a 2-track album. It really is. Like I mean, it's the Turbo Lover and Reckless. That's
those songs are so good.
They're so good. It's like they wasted all of their creative juices on those two songs, and it's like crap. We have an album to make. How?
The best part about Turbo Lover is the second verse.
Yeah, so the second
verse. Drums kick in, the guitar is there a little bit more. Just
I love the build up. I love the whole build up to like the first chorus. It's like it's just the slow. I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So next up we have Judas Priest 2008 record, Nostradamus, which is definitely their most ambitious album. So this is a kind of a double album.
Concept album.
Yes.
About the man Nostradamus who thought he could predict the future, though, has gotten some things vaguely right if you look at it through a certain lens. I'm like,
something's wrong. Didn't he predict the world was going to end in like 2012?
That was the Mayans. I think in vague things he's predicted major natural disasters, like even like from the last couple of years, and I'm like, what? If you look at anything with like the hindsight and the interpretation, it's like, oh, he predicted 9/11. I'm like, no, he didn't. That's not what happened. He like, I'm sorry, but
yeah, I think this album is interesting to listen to. It has some very epic moments.
Yeah.
And some of Judas Priest's most power metal moments, you could say, because they have some orchestration behind them. Rob Halford's really just bringing the heat with the vocals. And I enjoy those moments. I just think from a songwriting perspective, like, this album is way too fucking long.
I think it's like 23 tracks.
Yeah. and I'm only saying that because I think it gets lost in itself a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And not all the tracks really are exciting to listen to. And I get it. It's a concept album. You're telling a story. And I just feel I'm not the biggest concept album guy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most of the time the story is before the music. And I think it should always be the other way around. Like, I look at
you on that.
Like Insomnium's Winter's Gate, which is a concept album, fucking great. Iron Maiden, Seventh Son. I mean, there's so many classic songs on there. That's a concept album,
Yeah.
Halloween, like that's just my opinion, and I just feel like this album gets a little lost at times. But I mean, there are some good ones. Like Prophecy is fucking awesome.
Prophecy's great. I like. I think Death and Conquest.
Yeah.
Are two great songs.
Yep.
I mean, one of the anecdotes. Yeah, one of the anecdotes I heard about this album, which sort of sums it up, is the fact that I guess like they wrote the album and then they realized, there's too much music here to fit on, like, it was like on back, you get 80 minutes or whatever on like a CD, and so they're like, well, let's just add like interludes between all the songs. But then I'm just like, okay, you're just adding stuff. Like, you could just split it apart. Like, I don't know. That's just like, because like that's the thing. It's hard sometimes if you're just listening to know where you're at in the album, because it's just like some of the songs just kind of blend, and it's just like, wait, like, just to know when one song ends and the next one begins, and it's like, crap, I'm still, I thought this was the same song, I'm 2 songs later. Okay, it's just, you summed it up perfectly. You just get lost. Yeah. Sometimes listen to the album. It's fun. I like it. I almost wish they would maybe give this kind of thing another try, because I think Priest could pull it off. It's just a little much at times.
Mm-hmm. Rob Halford does have a very good vocal performance on here, though. But number 12, we have 2005's Angel of Retribution. This was Rob Halford's comeback album after he left for 2 albums to do Fight and some solo stuff as well, and came back with this one. This one has some really great tracks on it. Judas Rising. I love how this album starts, because this is Rob Halford returning to Judas Priest, and the way it starts off with him pretty much just like screaming like the Rob Halford awesomeness. Yeah. Like, that's the perfect way to come back with him. I think Angel's really great. Hell Rider is another one. Revolution. There's some bangers on here. Loch Ness is an interesting song. It's like 13 minutes long.
Yeah.
To end the album. Overall, not an awful album by any means. I mean, it has some great songs on it that I would continue to go back to. But I think it also just, as a whole package, isn't as good as some other ones.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of good tracks, like you said, Judas Rising and Revolution. I really like Wheels of Fire as well. That's a cool song. I just think there's, I think it's just a little bit of the, maybe it's a little bit of like, it's not ring rust, but you know what I mean? Like, get back in the groove of things after the last 2 albums of writing. Because, I mean, this is like a straight up just classic Priest album with like the writing, and it's a lot more melodic, and it's just fun It's also like when I first listened to it, like surprisingly like sort of heavy album, and I'm like, yeah, I can dig this.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's like, I prior to their most recent 4 albums, heavy wasn't really a word I associated with Priest all too much. You know what I mean? But I'm like, man, yeah, this album slams. Loses itself a little bit in some spots, but yeah, it's a fun time.
Agreed. So number 11, we have 1977 Sin After Sin, which is their 3rd album. I think this one is good for sure. I mean, it has some moments on it that, I mean, Diamonds and Rust is fantastic. Starbreaker's a really fun song to listen to. It's probably my favorite song off of here. Here Comes the Tears is great. Dissonant Aggressor is really cool to listen to. I always think of the Slayer cover of it.
Yep, always.
All the time. But, I mean, it has good moments. I think just compared to... It, not as bad as Point of Entry, but to me... It's sandwiched between Sad Wings of Destiny and Stained Class,
exactly,
which are 2 far superior albums.
Yeah, it's
a
transition. This is maybe in some ways, I mean, even though Sad Wings of Destiny is sort of the birth of Metal Priest, this is a little bit more of a step in that direction because Stained Class is definitely the first metal album that these guys put out, and I think that there's like songs like Diamonds of Rust, Starbreaker. I like Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, and. There's another one on here, and then Last Rose of Summer are all really cool.
Yeah.
But it's just again, like you said, it's just an album sandwich between better albums, and it's just sort of not that it suffers because I mean I do think this album is better than Point of Entry. There are memorable tracks on this album, but
absolutely,
yeah.
Number 10, we have Hellbent for Leather. Man, this album is really fun to listen to because it starts off with one of the hottest Judas Priest songs, Delivering the Goods
is awesome.
Oh, I love that song. I mean, the riffs are so good, but that chorus, every time Rob Halford's just like, yeah, delivering the goods. It's like it's hot to listen to that. Evening Star is great. Obviously, the title track is a classic Judas Priest song that they play all the time.
Yeah.
It's when Rob Halford always rides out on a motorcycle. And all sorts of stuff. Burn It Up's good. This album's also called Killing Machine.
It's like it kind of goes back and forth, like between the 2 names.
And I mean that song's good as well.
The Green Manalishi is I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is another fun song. Yeah, I mean this was like I love this album. This album is just like it has like that vibe of the 70s Priest, which was growing on me, but it's got the punch that they kind of get with starting with their next album, British Steel. It's just like boom, and it gets you good.
Right. I always think of this album as like it is in a way like I think this album and British Steel in ways go like hand in hand with each other because this is like the little brother to British Steel in a way because it really sets it up really well. It's fun to listen to. Number 9. We have Stained Class from 1978. When I think of Stained Class, I mean, obviously there was some major controversy around this album with Better By You, Better Than Me, and the whole kids that commit suicide and all sorts of stuff.
Is the song promoting suicide, which when you actually listen to it, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the lyrics, I'm like, no, that's not. No, that's not what's happening, but, whatever.
Right. So that's kind of one of the bigger things about this album. But... man, there's some fucking awesome songs on here. I think Hero's End is one of the most underrated Judas Priest songs. That song, once again, is another really just groovy Judas Priest songs with a really fun chorus, but that riff gets stuck in my head all the time. Beyond the Realms of Death is one of their best songs, I think, that they've done. It's fantastic. And the album starts off with, Exciter, and White Heat, Red Hot, which are 2 fun songs. Title track's really good. I mean, it's a strong album for sure.
Yeah, this is, I think, definitely. Okay, I can't say that because I mean, as you could probably guess somewhere else, this is maybe the best of like this time of like Priest in the 70s because like Sad Wings of Destiny is still sort of like it's kind of the open beginnings of them being metal, but it's also still very much like a rock album. And like this one's like I'd say this one's a bit more metal, but this album also has maybe the first one that has there's just a bit of sexiness on this album. Like that's the one thing that caught me off guard listening to like again, to like Better By You, Better Than Me, I'm like, I don't remember the song being just this, just having this sort of groove behind it. But like Exciter, White Heat, Red Hot, like you said. Saints in Hell is another cool song. Fire Burns Below. Yeah. It's just, this album rocks.
It does. It because I never listened to this album in its entirety until a few weeks ago. I've obviously heard the big hits off of it, but listening to it, I'm like, man, this is one of my favorite Judas Priest albums. Yeah, as a whole. So then number 8, we have 2014's Redeemer of Souls. This album was fantastic when it came out. I still think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And there was a very long gap between Nostradamus and this album, but then they come back and they deliver just some of the fucking bangers, man. I think when you take Redeemer of Souls and then Halls of Valhalla back to back, you were fucking going to Riff City, baby.
Yeah.
And because I every time I listen to this album, I'm like, I need to listen to at least these 2 songs. Like, I can't just pick one track off of it. If I want to listen to like a variety of Judas Priest, I'm like, I got to do both of them back to back because they're fucking perfect.
Yeah.
I think Halls of Valhalla is one of the best Judas Priest songs because the middle is fucking awesome. The ending is super epic. The final chorus, the riffs are incredible. Really good. But then, there's some other ones that are really fun. March of the Damned is one I really like. Hell and Back is one that just jams. But then the final 3 songs are fucking fantastic. Secrets of the Dead has a really great chorus. Battle Cry is cool. I always kind of laugh every time Rob Halford hits that note and he says Battle Cry. I mean, hey, I couldn't hit that note, but it does sound a little goofy at times. And then Beginning of the End's really good. I never listened to the deluxe version of this album. I don't know if you listen to some of these other songs like Snake Bite and Tears of Blood and stuff. Like,
I listen to them a little bit.
Goofy.
Yeah, just listen to a little bit. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, these are additional songs, and you listen to them like, yep, I can see why they came out later. Yeah. This album probably, I think, has, together, probably is one of the best openers to an album in the ending. Because, like, the first 5 tracks all slam on this album. And then the final 3 tracks all slam. I mean, nothing against, like Down in Flames, Hell and Back, and all the way down to Crossfire. But, like, God, even, like, songs like, I love the Dragonaut. I love the opening of this album. Like, man, this song's hot. And also The Sword of Damocles is another fun song. Yeah, Halls of Valhalla is one of their best choruses they've ever written, and just the riff and whatnot is just super cool. I love that album.
And just the momentum that song has, because you go, it starts off with the main riff comes in, which is awesome, but then I love every time it goes from like the chorus straight to the verse, and it doesn't stop, and that transition is perfect. I like this album a lot, and I think it's kind of a shame that Judas Priest probably won't play really any of these songs on it anymore.
Yeah.
Now that they're not touring behind this album, but man, there's some bangers. At least bring out either the title track or Halls of Valhalla.
Yeah, or like March of the Damned, because I really like just how that song's another just groovy Priest song. And I'm just like, it's hot.
Yeah. So next up, I think is probably the most underrated Judas Priest album.
Oh, 100%.
Because it fucking slams, and there are so many incredible songs on it, and that is 1988's Ram It Down. The title track. Man, I wish they would bust this song out a lot more, because it is fucking awesome. That solo shreds, and then when right after that the main riff starts back up and the drums are just going, it's like, motherfucker, this is awesome. Rob Halford comes back in just fucking being metal. I mean, it's a badass song. Yeah. And the chorus is super catchy. Heavy metal's cool. Love Zone is fun to listen to, but it's corny, but it's cool. Come and Get It. There's a lot of really fucking great songs on here.
Yeah, like Todd said, this is a, if Painkiller is a heavy album, this album might even be, well, Painkiller's a fast album. This one's fucking heavy at times. Like, again, Ram It Down is one of the heaviest songs they've ever written. But like, I like Come and Get It. It's a great song. They have a surprisingly, listening to it again, I used to not like this song, but they have like a surprisingly pretty alright cover of Johnny Be Good, which is a Chuck Berry song. I'm like, all right. Like, I appreciate it now because they put the Judas Priest spin on it. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
The album's just, I like, and Monsters of Rock is another really fun song. Like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. And coming after an album like Turbo.
And this was the album
get
that
the
needed to happen.
greatest reception. I mean, this is a great step towards something bigger and better that we'll get to. Number 6, their second album from 1976, Sad Wings of Destiny. I think, this album definitely has some of the most iconic Judas Priest songs with Victim of Changes, The Ripper, Tyrant. But I think even some of those, those songs are great. But I think some of the other tracks on here, like Dreamer, Deceiver, and Then Deceiver, are 2 fucking fantastic songs. And it's definitely, like you said, it's Judas Priest because it's a different vibe, definitely, than Rocka Rolla.
Yeah.
It's more of a metal vibe, and it works really well. I mean, the whole thing's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's just this album has like just a little bit of everything. It's like because it has some of that influence from like Rocka Rolla, but then it's got the metal stuff, and it just comes together so perfectly. Like even some of the songs are like, like I was thinking about it, like when you think of like the Rippers, not the longest, also not the most complex song, but I'm like, man, this song is perfect.
Yeah.
Just the way it's written. So is like
the guitar riff's so good.
Yeah. Like you're saying like Victim of Change and the Epitaph and songs like that. It's just this is a lot of people put this like right up there with, in the top 3. And I'm like, I can see that. This album
absolutely.
just is fun and it's a rocking good time.
Yeah, I agree. So then number 5 we have 1980s British Steel.
Woohoo.
Arguably the most popular Judas Priest album. I mean, it definitely has 2 of their most popular songs on here with Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight. But I think some of the other tracks are some of the stronger ones on here. Rapid Fire is awesome. I like the energy of that song.
Yeah.
I think it's really well done. Metal Gods is really well done as well. The chorus is always a little corny to me.
Oh yeah,
but it's still, hey, I mean it works. Grinder is fucking hot, and it's weird because the lyrics are really weird to that song. But man, I love listening to it. United is another great sing along track. I mean, there's some just really awesome stuff on here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason like this is Judas Priest's best album. It also happens to do with like the time because this album came out when like there was a lot of like riots going on in around London and in Great Britain, which is like in some ways this album's a concept album because it's all about that stuff that was going on at the time with like Breaking the Law especially and The Rage, The Rage is a weird song, but I really like it, especially because it starts off all reggae. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all about this. But this album's just maybe one of the most straightforward metal albums of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just metal. Fucking deal with it.
Yeah. and it's kind of, like, when you think Judas Priest, I think, even though we have a few albums in between it, like, to me, I always think British Steel or Painkiller.
Yeah.
One of the two, because that's, like, the image of Judas Priest, and this is where I feel they really came to light a lot more,
Yeah.
And they obviously scored some massive hits.
Of course, like I mean, I think like everybody knows those 2 songs.
Yeah.
Especially if you like rock. If you like rock, you know those 2 songs.
Right. And it's like the only 2 tracks that ever get played on the radio from fucking Judas Priest, which makes me a little sad.
Like one other one. That's from. I mean, you got another thing coming, but that's like it.
Right. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it. That's like nothing else gets played.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, they have so many other great songs that should be just played a little bit more, but whatever. Number 4, we have Defenders of the Faith from 1984. I think this album is superb from start to finish. It has some of my favorite Judas Priest songs on it. I mean, this is a very in-your-face album the whole time. Free Will Burning is great. Rock Hard, Ride Free is a great kind of sing-along song. The Sentinel, Love Bites, Some Heads Are Gonna Roll, and Night Comes Down are my favorite songs on here. Night Comes Down is fucking epic, man.
Oh, it's such a weird song too, but I'm like, oh yeah. It's like this. I just get happy like every time that song like just kicks in.
Yeah.
I fucking also love how like Heavy Duty and the title track kind of go together and sort of mesh together. It's just like I think that this was like this was their album right after Screaming for Vengeance.
Yes,
and I just feel like this album takes everything from that and kind of even makes it like even a little bit more heavy and a little bit more metal. And I think that's what really just makes this album thrive. I love this album. This was probably the most surprising album to listen to. When I was listening to it, I'm like, man, this album is really fucking good.
Yeah. I love how In Your Face and Heads Are Gonna Roll is.
Heads Are Gonna Roll.
That's
fucking,
a great fucking song.
The Sentinel. Yeah. Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker's fun.
Yeah, it is. Number 3, we have 1982's Screaming for Vengeance, which I think is great. And it's so interesting, because you have British Steel and then Point of Entry, but then Screaming for Vengeance is like a totally different sound and attitude for this band.
Yeah.
To me, obviously coming out with The Hellion and then Electric Eye, two of the most popular Judas Priest songs. I mean, Electric Eye is fucking riffs all over the place.
Fuck yeah.
And it's really fantastic. Riding, but I think some of the other songs, like Bloodstone, is really well done. Fever is very sexy.
I love Fever. I love Fever so much.
Yeah. And Riding on the Wind, Screaming for Vengeance are two really riff-heavy songs. But then, obviously, there's You've Got Another Thing Coming, which is a very fun song to listen to no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
I really like Devil's Child. Devil's Child's another fun song. It's just this album is, if you want to call it, a little bit more commercial than British Steel, but I think that it just works. There's definitely a lot more of especially because songs like Fever this was the first album where you had this kind of sexy songs like Fever, and I'm like, oh yeah. I don't know, it's just definitely a different, more of if British Steel is them fighting to the top, this is them just being let's fucking just have fun and just write bangers left and right. So
the production's just so much more in your face than any of the albums that Judas Priest has had before this one as well, which is cool. Number 2, who would have thought that in 2018 Judas Priest would deliver what one could say is maybe their best album?
Yep, I think I would not. If you were to say that, I'd be like, okay, that's fine with me.
Firepower from last year. I mean, we reviewed this album. You can go listen to that. We've talked about this album a lot. This ended up being my number 3 album of 2018.
This is my favorite album of 2018.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a superb album, and I don't think there is a single bad song or moment on here. They take Redeemer of Souls, just more straightforward metal side to it, but then they crank up the production, and to me, that's what does it. They got back to a really crunchy fucking sound. Yeah. And this album has Richie Faulkner on it, and Andy Sneap I don't think was on this one, but I still think they delivered some excellent songs. I mean, as of late, when I say I want to listen to Judas Priest, I always just go to this album, just because it captures what I want out of Judas Priest, because it's just riffs all over the place. Rob Halford delivers an incredible performance, because Redeemer's Souls, he sounded good, but there was definitely moments that I'm like, man, I'm not,
because the key or whatever, the tuning they were using, it's he's got to change voice, because that was one of the things that I remember when we were seeing them live. It's I wonder how this is going to do, and then he's just belting it as good as ever with some of the older songs. I'm like, it must be just these songs. Okay.
Yeah, but then, I mean, this is one of his best vocal performances ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Firepower is so mean and so heavy. Lightning Strikes is just riffs all over the place, and the guitar solos in Lightning Strike and Rising from Ruins are
Rising from Ruins is I think probably one of the best all-around Priest songs just that they've ever written.
Yes.
I think this is, if somebody would ask me, give me an album that sums up Priest, I think I would give them this album. It just has a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? Whereas other albums, it's it's got the riffs, but maybe the production's not that good, or it's not as heavy, or it doesn't got the speed, or just the aggression, or whatever. There's usually some kind of caveat with every other album. Not this album. It's got everything you would want in a Priest album.
Yeah. And I think when you look at Judas Priest, maybe some of their longer songs, more epic, slower tracks, Sea of Red is up there. I love that song. This song is so catchy.
It's one of the best closers to an album that I've heard in a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an incredible album. So number one, which most people probably have this as number one. I guess it depends on your taste in Priest. Yeah. Because I could see someone having British Steel up there, or Sad Wings of Destiny,
Screaming for Vengeance.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. But number one, we have Painkiller, and I think Painkiller is one of the most perfect metal albums ever created. There is not a single bad moment on here. To me, Firepower doesn't happen without Painkiller.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think, and I know there's an 18-year gap between the two. I know.
28 years. 28-year gap.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I know there's a big gap between the two, but Firepower has that edge and in your face that Painkiller is definitely the most in your face that Judas Priest ever has been.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the title track's one of the most classic songs, but All Guns Blazing is so fucking metal. And Nightcrawler, Between the Hammer and Anvil is fucking awesome. A Touch of Evil is hot. Living Bad Dreams is another slower, really epic Judas Priest song that really works well. There's not a bad moment on it, for sure.
Yeah, I just think this album has just an aggression and to it that is, not matched by many other Priest albums. Again, except for maybe Firepower. The title track is one of the greatest metal songs ever written. But other songs like Love the Rebel is cool, really cheesy, just fun song. Yeah. Like you said, Living Bad Dreams. To me, I think where this album shines is the back-to-back punch of just Between the Hammer and the Anvil and A Touch of Evil. Yeah. Just two different songs, which is boom, boom, and I'm like, yes. Oh, it's like A Touch of Evil is like, hey, remember that stuff we were doing with synths and doing different kinds of songs? Here, we figured it. We figured it out. This is what all this led to, and I'm like, that might A Touch of Evil was for a long time my favorite Priest song.
Really?
I love that song for a very long time. So,
yeah, it's an incredible album, and Painkiller also has one of the best guitar solos of all time. I mean, the solo it's long, but it is perfect, and it gets stuck in your head, and it has one of the most epic intros to a solo where they just stop and the sweeps and all this stuff, which is kind of a different thing for Judas Priest. They never really have done anything like that in terms of technical guitar playing with solos, and that's why to me it stands out. I mean, they just delivered something so fucking incredible, and then Rob Halford leaves.
I know. It's a weird thing to think about. Yeah. It's the weirdest thing to think about is that they made this album, and then their next two albums were the bottom two albums on our list.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's just a weird thing to think about.
Yeah. And I think this album takes, some of that sound that they had with Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith, and then Ram It Down, which, is a little bit more of a crunchier sound, and it perfects it. Yeah. I mean, this is the best Judas Priest has sound, in my opinion. And then you have Firepower, which I think sounds very similar to me, in terms of crunch and the in-your-face nature of it.
Yeah.
So, Judas Priest is a hell of a metal band. I mean, there's a reason why
they're called the metal gods.
Exactly, and why they're considered one of the best metal bands of all time, because they've done so much. They've put out so many awesome albums and great songs, and very influential, for sure. A lot of things in metal today would not happen without Judas Priest.
Oh, yeah. I think there's four bands that you kind of have to pay tribute to in metal. It's Sabbath, Priest, Maiden, and then probably Metallica.
Yeah.
And that's if you say you're not somehow influenced by those bands, you don't have to like the bands, but if you say you're not influenced by the bands, I'm just I don't know how you can say that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Let us know your ranking of Judas Priest albums. Thanks for watching. And we'll be back with another one eventually.
Hopefully.
But there's some other ones. We've done all the big four. We've done Trivium, Testament.
We did do Trivium, wow.
Monobarth, Iced Earth.
Yeah, Iced Earth, yeah.
I did All That Remains. There's also Game of Thrones, if you want to watch that one too.
Yeah, we did do that one.
Comments on that one all the time.
It's
actually got a lot of views.
It's actually got a lot of views. For us? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty cool.
We'll have to redo that one eventually, because, like 2 months.
Yeah. Marvel. We've ranked all the Marvel movies up until...
Wow, I forgot. That was a... We also... I mean, the first one we did was Star Wars. We ranked the Star Wars movies up until that point. I mean, granted, there's been like...
It's been a lot more.
It's been 3 movies since that point, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah. Go check them all out. Thanks for watching.